industry is in tatters.
In short, Russia has lost.
Putin has already lost.
This terrorist Putin.
Никто по существу не хотел разговаривать. Нас никто не слушал. Послушайте сейчас.
Пускай нам с тобой обоим.
Fala pessoal que está aí assistindo a gente, boa noite aí, já vi que o pessoal está chegando junto. Hoje a gente vai ter o autor de 3 livros excelentes, Losing Military Supremacy, The Myopia of American Strategic Planning, The Real Revolution of Military Affairs e Disintegration Indicators of Coming America Collapse. Então, sem mais delongas, without further ado, Mr. Andrei Martyanov. Привет, Андрей. Большое спасибо. Добро пожаловать. Как вы дела?
Yeah, it's good. It's all good. Хорошо.
Thank you very much, sir. So I just introduced the 3 books that you wrote. And I know that you're writing a 4th book now. And do you want to give some spoiler about it? Who dies in the end? The Western civilization?
Yeah, that's going to be pretty much about it. But of course, it will have a much input, so to speak, from what is now known about special military operation and how the West essentially shot itself in the foot and then into the temple. And that's pretty much a summary of what I was warning about for the last 10 years, that they shouldn't have done what they were doing because they messed with the wrong people, and now they're paying the price, and there you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Marcelo Vilaça. I'm very amateur at this. I'm just starting at this. Unfortunately, our friend Davidson Detman is not here today. He had a big work to accomplish. Well, that's it. We are not journalists. We are a technical person, and we're doing this just because, you know, we're fed up with bullshit and all that. So this question was actually, I was not intending to ask because everybody asked the same question. But since you brought this about in the next book, we would like to understand what did the West did not get to figure out the so obvious thing that Russia is not Iraq or Afghanistan.
Well, because we have been observing a complete intellectual collapse of the Western elites, and it didn't start yesterday. Of course, today we see the result of people who are utterly incompetent in any facet of human activity, be that military, political, economic, and the only thing they know is how to promote absolutely insane ideologies, and the other thing is how to stay in power, which is pretty much re-elect themselves and to surround themselves into what then becomes an echo chamber. And when you live in the echo chamber in a bubble of mythology which you created yourself, at some point of time you begin to believe it. And it started really in earnest during the Cold War, you know, and after that it proceeded like what we have observed today. Basically, if you see anybody with a degree in political science, so to speak, journalism or politics or government from any Ivy League school in the United States, it automatically disqualifies those people to express any kind of opinion, competent opinion on any matter of the international relations. And of course, in terms of warfare, United States doesn't know what large-scale combined arms operations are and what is the continental warfare. So there you go. And when you don't know how to do it, you know, simple as that.
As simple as that. It really amazes me. I sometimes I talk to Davis, on my friend and colleague on the show. I'm just waiting for something very smart happen that oh, see, it was all planned, and I don't know, Russia collapses and China collapses and the United States comes up. But because it sounds so stupid, so absurd that you cannot think that. No. These people cannot have planned that. It's not possible to believe that. I mean, I'm not a military person, but it's so obvious. Some things are so obvious that, I mean, there you go. So I have, since you are a Navy specialist, we have something in Brazil. Brazil is now negotiating nuclear technology, nuclear submarine technology with France. And I would like to have this this conversation kind of half-half, a bit of military, because of course people want to hear you talk about military, and a good part also about Russian society and civilization. I myself have very interesting curiosities that you brought up at some point, and we want to go like that. So coming back to the Brazilian France nuclear submarine thing. We have, so how is this the French or European in general in submarine technology, and is it interesting for Brazil? I mean, any technology, of course, is interesting if we don't have, but how interesting is that for Brazil? Maybe, or maybe it could, since we have BRICS now, it could be talking with Russia, for example, who have supposedly superior technology.
Well, French obviously have a very long and proud tradition, actually, of being independent operators of the both strategic missile submarines, which with the ballistic missiles, which are totally French, unlike it is the case, for example, with UK. And they, of course, had the multi-purpose submarines, Rubis class, and so on. They are smaller subs, which not necessarily is the disadvantage, but in modern times, when you have the very advanced technologies of the quieting and reduction of the physical fields, for example, of submarines, you can operate something like on the level of Project 885 Yasin class, Russian submarine, and of course, boomers, strategic missile submarines, they are large by definition. So French have the experience on that. They have the experience in ballistic missiles, obviously. I don't think so they're going to be sharing this with Brazil, obviously, because it's a nuclear deterrent. But they certainly are capable of providing some expertise in terms of the multi-purpose submarines, which will be armed with some kind of like middle-of-the-road type thing. Torpedoes, maybe with capability, most likely with the capability to launch something like the Exocet types missiles. Maybe they will try to transfer the Scalp missiles, the technology. So that's about it. Brazil has a direct access to the Atlantic, so it is strategically, it is very well positioned. It's almost like the United States, which has the straight shot into the both theaters in Atlantic and Pacific. So for Brazil, it's definitely a step up in terms of the military power. And but yes, it is a very serious technology. So would Brazil talk to Russia in terms of BRICS about this? I don't know, but actually the only two countries which have a direct transfer of the nuclear power submarines technology are Russia and India. India has been using Soviet and Russian submarines nuclear submarines for a while. So, and they essentially arrived to the, construction of their first nuclear power submarine, Indian submarine. So who knows? I mean, but yeah, French are not the worst case scenario in this case because there are so many, there are so few countries which do that, so, and the transition from merely diesel submarines, which is still important to have, to nuclear power submarines, sure, it's a leap in many respects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is an interesting point that you mentioned. This is not the worst case scenarios. We were having this conversation the other day, me and Davidson, and he mentioned the 212 class German submarine who has this almost invisible technology. How is it on the view of the leagues of submarines, for example?
Well, you should know that what is called the Type 212, while looking very futuristic, in reality, it's a submarine with the air-independent propulsion, which allows it to stay, not being nuclear submarine, to stay up to 2 weeks, underwater. But the problem is, I don't think so they have anyone now operational because they have huge issues there with their sustaining them, repairing them, and deploying them. So it's, these are submarines which theoretically can go certainly the same as the Gotland class by Swedish Navy, also air-independent propulsion, and what is coming now, Russian type of the Lada, the Lada M modernized with the air-independent propulsion. They're certainly very interesting types because, as I already stated, they allow you to stay underwater for much longer times than previously, without necessity to surface and charge your batteries. But again, it's not only what submarine is, which is of course important. All of them, modern submarines, the quietest submarines right now are the Russian ones, Yasin class and obviously Boreal A class strategic missile submarines. And we reached the point when the quietness of submarines reached such level, or rather not reached, lowered them to such level that they are equal to the natural sounds, natural noises of the world ocean. So it's a pretty serious development. So, and what can I say? It's good submarines if you can operate them, which Germany has issues with. And so, but that's about it. In the end, it's what weapons do you carry? And in terms of weaponry, there is nothing out there which can compare with the latest Russian submarines, and just simply nothing, including American ones. They don't have the punching power which Russians have.
Okay, that's quite interesting. I was watching yesterday. Also the Russian production is pumping steam like nothing before. I was watching yesterday Alexander Mercury's program, and he mentioned. I saw also on the MOD Telegram channel. He mentioned that Shoigu gave numbers that Russia is producing 17-fold what it was before the start of the SMO. The numbers sound quite impressive, actually. That would amount by Alexander's calculations on other news that he saw, on other investigations that he saw. It would amount like 21 million shells a year, and that's kind of impressive. Do you think that really Russia is on its own that amount of production?
I'll give you one number which is going to illustrate something for you. Russia produces as much steel as the United States. And I'm talking about steel alone. Then you add here pig iron, which is a crucial part in developing of other things. Russia produces more pig iron and steel combined than the United States. and by a huge margin, by about 25 million tons. So that tells you something, doesn't it? So, and the United States loves to talk about itself as which it's not true. It's not the first economy in the world. But again, Russia is not even in the competition with Germany. Russian size of Russian economy, which I was writing for years, some people, it varies between 2.5 and 3.5 times larger than German economy before it began their industrialization. So they basically went into their, dark room thinking that they're gonna find their little kitten, and they found the tiger. And that's the thing. That's what we discussed, and I mentioned again. You have the economists or political scientists with a degree from Ivy League. Stop talking to them. They know nothing. They are ignorant, incompetent, and uneducated people. But that's what they were thinking. They think that the amount of money you produce, most of them are fiat now, and essentially they're, zeros in the computers. They think that it's the size of the economy. It's absolutely not true. And in terms of tanks, Russia outproduces, which is correct, the whole West combined several times over. In terms of the standoff weapons and smart munitions, precision-guided munitions, put together the whole NATO, and they will be like not even close. So yeah, it's, I don't know, about 21 million shells. It's possible that the number is still huge. Cannot vouch one way or another, but yeah, it's in tens of millions. Whatever the 10 of millions, we don't know. But it's certainly, again, it's Russia outproduces combined West. I'm talking about by many times. Let's put it this way, and especially in terms of tank production, and so yeah, and evidently there, in terms of their combat aviation right now, it is increasing just dramatically. I mean, and I know it for a fact. And what can I say? I mean, that's the Russian economy, and that's what Russians did for centuries, essentially, fighting the West. I mean, and look at the Great Patriotic War and the way which was won under the most, unfavorable conditions. But you know what? You just don't go. Bernard, Field Marshal Montgomery. Remember his 2 points? Never march on Moscow. If you want to march on Moscow, see point number 1. So there you go. Those people do not understand what they do, and now they're learning. I think so. They're learning. I cannot guarantee that.
Well, I think history proved that marching to Moscow is not a good idea whatsoever.
No, it's not. No.
Never was. Maybe never will be. Let's hope this is the last time this stupidity wins.
Yeah, I hope so.
I have been following your work now for about a year and a half, a little bit more than that, maybe. There is a point that I see you punching over and over again, and I don't want to, I don't want to contradict that point. I truly believe in what you say, but I have a question about cycles, and the point that you punch all the time is that the West lost the army's race. And I mean, it's clear. We can see it now. We can see it crystal clear, just with numbers that we just talked about. It's absolutely clear. My point is that coming back to the time when the United States developed the nukes, the nuclear bombs, and they thought they would be 30 years ahead of everybody else. Could this thinking be dangerous? I mean, not that Russia is thinking like that. Oh, we won and hooray!
I hear where you're coming from. Oh, absolutely. You cannot rest. You cannot rest on your laurels. But that's what Russians do. They don't. They just continue to improve. Now, and just to give you an example. NATO doesn't have anything even close to the hypersonic weaponry. Russians are already on the second generation, okay? So you have now the new air defense complexes coming out. It's not even funny to compare anything. I did actually comparison in one of my videos, the envelopes of the Patriot PAC-3 and the S-300 V4 or S. We're not even talking about S-500. There's nothing like this there. And I mean, it's generations ahead. It's not anymore, you know, you could say it, for example, 3 years ago. Oh, Russians are about 5 to 7 years ahead in hypersonics, okay? So look at this, what happened with the SMO, because as much as it's tragic to admit, but that's the historical fact which have been confirmed for millennia now. War is the main, sometimes often, the main engine of the progress, including in the weapons, but also in the dual-use technologies. And if you look attentively at this, the lead now is not in years. It's measured not in years, it's measured in generations. Just to give you example, United States still doesn't have supersonic anti-shipping missile. Supersonic, not hypersonic. Supersonic. The mainstay of the American anti-shipping, for example, strikes, if you wish, is of course the either a long-range naval missile by Kronberg from Norway, or is a good old venerable Harpoon and things of this nature. They are subsonic missiles. United States tried once to produce supersonic Mach 2, Mach 3 missile. They failed. It was worth its own weight in gold. The French tried to do something similar, you know. The French actually, because they have the also tradition of the anti-shipping missiles, but still, there is no real serious operational supersonic missile. Now we're talking about the Zircon 3M22, which is already deployed on 2 of the frigates. Now it's going to be deployed now on the corvettes of the project 2385. And this is the first generation. There is already a second generation of Zircon with even longer range and even faster. Now they talk about Mach 13 plus. Good luck trying to intercept it. We already saw what Kinjal does, you know. And this Zircon is a whole other thing altogether because it changed naval warfare completely. So next year, which is coming now, I believe it will be Kazan Yasin class, you know, the Grenade class submarine, which will start trial launches of the submarine version of Zircon. And I put out the mathematics of this. Good luck doing the search and detection. And, you know, when you have the Mach 10 missile with the range of 1,500 kilometers, well, there you go. You know, what are you going to do? Pray?
Yeah. Yeah, I saw your video showing the parts of Canada in the United States that it could get from East Russia. I mean...
Yeah, it's
not. You don't even have to leave home.
Well, listen. It's a paradigm shift. I warned about it. I wrote 3 books about it, and now when we see how it shifted, and it did shift, and so you look at this and say, yeah, hey, I told you so. You know, just you have to look at the velocities of the modern weapon. You have to look at the envelopes of capabilities of the modern air defense complexes which Russia produces. Turkey, I'm pretty sure would love to get their hands on S-500, you know, but Russians do not sell it yet. Although India said we'll be first ones to receive it. They are receiving now S-400, but S-400 actually, because of the new missiles, it gets capabilities which are somewhat comparable to S-500. But S-500 range-wise is just absolutely insane. So it's, you know, we saw everything with actual military operation.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, we start seeing some Wunderwaffe entering the field and just like that getting old schooled.
Yeah.
I have this brings my mind to think how could this cycle, this cycle of madness, how could it be broken? I mean, I understand that Russia is simply protecting itself. If you're protecting yourself, you're doing okay. How can this cycle be broken? Because it just seems like, okay, we got something good that was the end of the Cold War, but it just seems like spinning again, spinning. How can it be broken?
It's basically, for example, Vladimir Putin says that, many people, Mr. Lavrov says that, and intellectuals in the West who are not corrupted and retain their integrity and knowledge, they speak about it all the time. It is about the collapse of the Pax Americana, and the United States already ran out of resources, and that is why it's beginning to eat Europe. But the point is, nobody expected that it will accelerate that fast. I mean, to that incredible velocity that I was writing about, and people of the scale, much larger scale economically than me, Michael Hudson, for example, and they were writing about this. Yeah, Europe is the lunch. And Europe is the lunch. It is being consumed as we speak. But it is being consumed now on the rate which nobody expected. It is so fast. So it's weakening. And when United States collapses as the empire, it doesn't mean that the United States will disintegrate as a country, but we already see the situation with the country being basically torn apart and driven into the ground. You see, you can do it fast. You can do what Russia and China are doing already now. If you don't know, it was yesterday confirmed. There is no dollar in the account settling between China and Russia. Only yuan and rubles, period. And you can basically blow the dollar or whatever remains of it, basically reputation, out of the water really fast. The problem is, nobody wants that this massive, scaffolding of the Pax Americana collapsing and hurting others, So it has to be done somewhat slower. But we observe right now that one major, in fact, probably the most important pillar of the American economic dominance and trust in dollar is being demolished. It's American military power. It's basically the hollow force which cannot do anything against the peer. And that obviously opens the new can of worms, so to speak, and we have to see where it will get us. But we have to keep in mind, neither Russia nor China are interested in collapsing the United States in the most dramatic fashion. Nobody wants the global economic crisis just blowing up to such a degree that indeed World War III becomes inevitable. So it's kind of slow operation of squeezing the combined West from its former position. And it's already happened to a degree. And that's when this cycle will kind of, be broken. And again, you observe it essentially if you look attentively in terms of in historical terms, which is from 2015 to today. It's really nothing. It's the instance, 7-8 years. It's just starting from Syria and then Ukraine. These are all fronts of the same war, so to speak, which Russia conducts against the combined West, or rather globalist West. And as you can see yourself, it's winning. And winning by the serious advantage. So it's let it run, the way it runs today, and see where it all goes. But I think so that the rebellion on the what is called global South already has started, and you cannot put genie back into the bottle. And especially when you look attentively at what is happening at the Bab el-Mandeb and the Yemeni Houthis, basically literally choking international maritime trade in the choke point. That is why it's called the choke point, because it was choked. And this news this morning, it's like, wow, man, it's just something. I never saw anything in my life like this. And I've been through the collapse of the Soviet Union.
Yeah, we are going there. We are going there. We are going to arrive there. You just called the point that I didn't want to touch, but I will touch. That is this Middle East situation. I was watching an interview with. I actually mentioned this yesterday as well to Larry Johnson. An interview with Alexander Dugin with that Syrian girl. I never remember her name. She called herself Syrian girl.
Yeah.
And at some point, I saw Alexander Dugin talking about the responsibility of Russia on all that. But hey, Russia has its own problems, so don't count on us to solve everybody's problem. And he was saying that he was kind of disappointed on the Arab world, like the Arab world's not doing enough. And then I see this Houthi situation, and it just looks to me like, well, you proxy us, we proxy you.
Well, I disagree with Dugin actually pretty much on most points he says. But one thing, he's correct here, I have to agree with him. It's the fact that, Russia is not a global, basically, policeman. In fact, Russia doesn't want to be that. Why? So, you know what? Let the multipolar world, which is already fait accompli, we already live in the multipolar world, let them deal with this, okay? As much as my heart breaks watching what is being done to Gaza, okay? Mm-hmm. And it's absolutely, Israel commits a war crime on the unimaginable scale. Yeah. But you know what? It's not Russia's responsibility to go there and free people of Gaza, you know? Why should Russia do it? Russia can do some humanitarian work. She can work behind the scenes on the level of the United Nations. She will talk to Turkey, Russia and Turkey communicate on this issue constantly. But it is up to, indeed, Arab states and, I won't go with Iran yet, but Iran obviously plays a very crucial role here. And Turkey, Islamic world, to sort these things out, you know? Mm-hmm. If they do not want this, so, I mean, what can I say, you know? And, but it's not Russia's responsibility. It's not Russia's Navy, task to go there as it was during the Soviet times and, 5th Operational Squadron in Mediterranean and, no, I mean, it's just, how can I say it? Russia stands by Arabs in many respects, but, I mean, she's not going to fight their wars for them.
Yeah, just today I was watching a show that you did with Nima, and you were mentioning that the Iranians and Russians basically don't need are visa free to each other at this point.
They are. Yeah, it's not only that. There is a huge corridor which is already partially operational as we speak. It's the north-south corridor. It is from basically Murmansk through St. Petersburg, Moscow down to Azerbaijan, through the Azerbaijan, down through whole of Iran and down to the, Bandar Abbas and all those ports, Iranian ports, which have the direct access to the Indian Ocean. So, yeah, it's already done, and the Russians are now building this new, called the River Sea type container ships. They're not they're still significant, but I mean, they are not as huge as those gigantic container ships, but they will be traveling from from Astrakhan and from Baku to Enzeli, the port of Enzeli on the Caspian Sea. That's another kind of thing. So, it's, we can see the Russian-Iranian relations actually growing to the level of the allied relations, and Russia will not allow Iran to fall. Iranians have enough wherewithal on their own, but obviously Iran becomes a strategic ally of Russia, and Iran and Russia are neighbors. So there you go. So what can I say?
Yeah, we've been seeing also Brazil having some nice moves with Iran. I wouldn't say ally level, but something friendship level at least. Okay, I would like to ask about this Nuremberg kind of trial that Russia is preparing. I mean, we've been hearing this in a lot of places. Could you just explain a little bit maybe how Russia is planning to do this in an aftermath? I mean, will Russia take Ukraine as I mean, leaving a piece of Ukraine, but keeping the police activities there ruled by Russia? And who are they going to look for on these trials, these war crime trials?
Oh, it's clear who they're going to be looking for, because right now we already see the basically statements by Mr. Lavrov, Mr. Putin, Mr. Medvedev. This is the highest political level in Russia. So, and those people don't go out and just spew the BS, as it is now the law in United States elections, and just, basically it's verbal garbage, basically. No, these are serious people, and they do not throw their words into the wind. So the tribunal is being prepared. It's in the news in Russia. They are deciding what kind of judges there will be. After the whole situation is done, it depends on how it will be done. Obviously, Russia will dictate the conditions of unconditional surrender. So, and I agree with you, and I'm also of this point of view that if Ukraine will be preserved, it will be some rump of the country, which will not have armed forces, will have only police force. And it's going to be controlled from Moscow completely. So, and what people who will be Russia will be following will be obviously people who are critical for the Nazi regime in Kiev, the oligarchs. For example, just to give you an example, Mr. Budanov has, the chief of GUR has there now a criminal case against him. And we have those people. I'm pretty sure Mr. Zelensky will be called out, at some point of time. So when you look at this, and especially the top brass of the armed forces of Ukraine or whatever is left after them, and especially Azov people, all those Nazis, then there will be many foreign names with Anglo-Saxon names and, other names, identities of many of them, be them so-called volunteers or mercenaries, they will be also in that. So they will be charged even in absentia. Even if they, for example, who knows, you can charge Victoria Nuland with war crimes because she is a war criminal, as most of people in her circle in the State Department. They have their, hands in blood up to the elbows. So, but it doesn't mean that you have to pursue them constantly, albeit, believe me, they will not like what is coming. But it will be done also not only for the justice for the innocent victims and civilian population, which, for example, Kiev regime committed against, but it will be done for the rest of the world. Nobody cares what anymore in Russia what United States thinks or what especially London or Brussels thinks. I never saw in my life, in my 60 years, and including Soviet times, and the height of the Cold War, I never saw in my life so much contempt towards combined West and Russia. It's unprecedented. They look at them as their low lives, basically, and especially those elites. So there you go. And it will be done for the rest of the world to see. That's what many people do not understand. It's not only, for example, let's say there is some American colonel or American general who is sitting there and, just conducting or controlling basically the shelling of the civilian population in Donetsk. His identity is well known. The identities of for example, those people from Poland, Germany, who are primarily, they don't like to go to the front lines to meet Russians. They stay in the rear primarily, shooting in the backs of the retreating, Ukrainian troops. So there you go. And some of them will have to go in hiding for the rest of their life. So stop traveling altogether. And what can I say? And that will be done for the rest of the world to see.
And look at their backs. Look at their backs.
Yep.
So I think we have we combine about 45 minutes, so we have can we still go for about 10 minutes?
Yeah. We have 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, cool, thanks. So I will pivot now to the social part of Russia. I still have 1,000 military questions, but I want to talk about the social as well, social and civilizational. I was watching you at Anya at one point, at one show that you did with Anya, through the eyes of her channel. Yeah, and once I heard you saying this sentence that made me hyper curious. The West never got Stalin right.
Oh, no.
I want to understand, what did the West got it wrong? Probably everything, I believe, but...
pretty much everything. This is not to say that Stalin was humanitarian. He was a man for the job in the toughest conditions in the world at that time, and he had obviously, just to give you an example, Stalin and his people, they understood that the war with Germany was inevitable even before Hitler came to power. Even when there was a Rapallo Treaty and all that. So they knew what they had to do. It's a famous Stalin phrase. We're back, we are, we're lagging behind 50, 100 years. We either cover that in 10 years or we will be, basically crushed. That's quote. And he was absolutely right. And what they were doing, they were saving basically Russian civilization, and generally the Soviet Union, obviously at that stage, it was done obviously sometimes by ruthless methods. But in terms of the real statistics of, for example, obviously repressions, obviously purges, they did take place, but they were on the order of magnitude smaller than the garbage which basically Soviet dissidents poured into their, and they loved Solzhenitsyn, for example, just to give you one example. And even Colonel McGregor, he talks about the, there were 1 million Red Army soldiers executed in the front line. Well, you know what? Stalin was maybe somewhat cruel, but he was not stupid. He won't execute the most important resource, he had his Soviet people who fought on the fronts. So, but no, they take this Viktor Astafyev, a very petty Russian writer who was, frontline guy, very uneducated. He had only 2 years of the Literature Institute behind him, who at the end of his career in the 90s, he wanted the Nobel Prize for Literature. And guess what? How you get the Nobel Prize for Literature? You tell about that 150 million Russians have been killed by Stalin regime, that Russians were just absolutely afraid of everything, that they have been, shot at and hanged, that Gulag was something like which killed actually like 300 million people. That's what they lied. Because their task, fundamental task, is to rewrite history starting from the World War II. They cannot take it that it was the Soviet Union and the Red Army which basically smashed 80% of crème de la crème of Wehrmacht and all other European allies. Soviet Union was fighting unified Europe again. As Tolstoy wrote in World and Peace, which was true. The collection of the dozen languages, European languages, invaded Russia with Napoleon. Prussians, Polish, Italians, French, obviously, Same was happening.
Crusaders.
In World War II. It wasn't just Hitler Soviet Union was fighting against. There were Spanish, French, Scandinavian SS divisions, there were Italian, Hungarian, Romanian armies. And they cannot take it, they cannot take it in State Department, they cannot take it everywhere because obviously it goes completely across, perpendicular to this mythology of America's finest fighting force and this shining city on the hill. And so they need to constantly rewrite it because otherwise how you can to justify, that America is the best of the best, whatever it was. And remember, that was Obama, the finest force in history, which didn't win a single freaking war. They lost the war. How the hell you can become finest fighting force when you lose the wars? And I mean, Jews, as this in the movie, remember, Cuba Gooding Jr., show me the money, show me the record. you run like your pants down from Afghanistan, and this is the finest fighting force. And now they see everything what is happening in special military operation. That is why they love all those neocons from Russia, those liberal schizoids. And these are the people who constitute the so-called Russian study field in the West for the last 70 years. Schizoids like Solzhenitsyn, the paranoics, all kinds of dissidents who write like, oh yeah, you know what? I mean, I saw how they raped 10,000 women in the snow, and these are not normal people. Yes, I am on record. I can answer it, and I'm going to talk to any professor of Russian history from Ivy League. The Russian study field in the United States, for example, the same as in the West, is non-existent. It's a collection of the shysters who sell the only thing political elites in the West want to hear, how great they are and how bad Russians are. That's pretty much it. That's what is this all about.
Yeah, sometimes I even think if all this raping women and cutting children from the belly of pregnant, if this is not some kind of crazy projection from their
sick projection. It is projection. It is the same as about the 2.5 million German women raped by the Red Army, the garbage which was done on the linear extrapolation from a single clinic in Berlin by 2 German feminists. Me too. So, and then you have this guy who graduated, what is the course in Sandhurst? 13 weeks, I believe. They think that you can prepare a real serious officer in Great Britain in 13 weeks. That is why they don't have army anymore. And they are just clowns, there. Sir Anthony Beaver, he goes out and writes about 2.5 million raped German women by Red Army. He obviously never heard about the actually 800 Red Army soldiers executed in 1945 for raping women, and 4,000 being, field tribunals and sent back to Siberia. Precisely because Russians were fighting, like crazy, stopping of the, marauding, let alone raping women. So, you know what? They don't know math. They don't teach math there. They don't teach math in the West anymore. And that is why they can fall for this garbage like Solzhenitsyn writing about 100 million Russians. If 100 million Russians have been killed throughout from the Civil War, I won't be here. I wouldn't have been born. Neither would have been my parents. But Solzhenitsyn and people who published them, they're morons. They graduated American schools. They don't understand basic math, let alone the basic statistics and how you calculate things. They believe this, because this builds this absolutely Mordor thing. And when you look at those people, and they think, not that, again, as I already stated, Roger Thurston wrote a wonderful book about it. So that basically that pretty much most of it is mythology. This is not to say that there was no purges. They certainly were. There was no Gulag. Gulag certainly did exist. But we have people, Colonel McGregor reports references, one dude from Great Britain with Polish wife, that Gulag was operational till 1989. It's like, people, do you understand actually what you're talking about? This is not history. This is a joke. This is the excrement. It has nothing to do with academic science. It has nothing to do with serious research, but this is the level. And as I already stated, you saw yourself maybe a couple of days ago, and now it's in Mr. Ben Hodges, general. Well, if United States has generals like Ben Hodges, which it does, many of them are, then they're not going to win anything against the guys with the sandals and AK-47. But that's what it is.
Yeah, that is true. Sir, we are on your time. Do you think we have time for one more question? Quick one?
Okay, let's do one more question. Okay.
Great, thank you. So this is a kind of easy one. In the BRICS point of view, how do you think that Russia sees Brazil right now, and how do you think it has been seen from the last years with changing governments? I mean, non-political questions. I just want to understand the perspective.
Well, there are many Brazilian guys who play in Russian football league. That's for sure.
That is true.
Yeah, so always did. And Russians love Brazilians, you know. So, but the point is, of course, politically, Brazil is a very strange country for Russians to comprehend, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know how Russian government views Brazil. Obviously, it's an important country. It is the largest country in the South America, and it's, as I already said, extremely important. But politically, it's going to take a little bit longer to get incorporated into the BRICS. Consider the fact that BRICS, it's complex organization, and it's going to be even more complex. You will have to do so much harmonizing work there between those different interests. But BRICS is already evolving as the new proto United Nations. United Nations, which exists today, is completely corrupt organization, absolutely unworkable. And, you know, you just go there. The only reason for its existence is to have some kind of the platform, you know, where you can discuss and state your point of view. But in terms of the future world order, which is already emerging as we speak, multipolar one, obviously the founding members of BRICS will be very important for the emergence of the new world order, and Brazil is the part of it. So how Brazil will choose to proceed with that is, of course, nobody can do anything about it, but Brazilian people have to decide, you know. So it is difficult to say.
That's what we punch here in the channel every day. It has to come from Brazilian people. Don't expect other countries to
nobody
come and
comes
do your job.
and fixes problems for you. It's all yours. But once you fix it, Brazil being a very large country, you know, and very capable, having a tremendous economic potential. So, my gosh, it could be next, you know, one of the key poles, so to speak. So, absolutely, that's important.
Yeah, I always say that Brazil is geographically in a different rock than the rest of BRICS, because, you know, Europe, Asia, and Africa are all connected. And Farinazo says something that it's very important to have in mind, that the United States will never allow to have another superpower or another great power in the same hemisphere.
Oh, it's understandable. We know, yeah, it's absolutely correct. But that's why I'm saying it is totally up to Brazilian people to sort it out, because Brazil has a potential to become a superpower. And that's the only country in South America which is, you know, basically capable to do this. And but again, as I already stated, you know, it's totally up to Brazilians.
That is true. So Brazilians, do your job. I'm trying to do something. Don't even live in Brazil now. And speaking about Farinazo, he sends regards. He says that he loves your books.
My two regards to Farinazo myself. You know, so great guy, love the guy.
Yeah. We are doing some shows together every now and then. And he said that when you go to Brazil, the feijoada is on him.
Oh gosh. Okay. Oh my God. Okay.
All right. Andrei, I had a great time. I'm not finishing this because I want, just because I know you have other compromises and you have to write your book, and we are waiting for it. Thank you very much for coming. It was a great chat. I still have a million questions, but maybe next year we talk again. So I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas to you all, guys. Absolutely.
And hopefully we can meet before next Christmas for the Orthodox Christmas.
Absolutely. Just shoot me an email.
I will. Thank you very much. So everybody, you can find all of Andrei Martyanov's social and work on the link description. Don't forget to do everything that social media requires, you know, like, subscribe, all that thing. And thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. My pleasure being here.
До
свидания.
До свидания. Thank you. Bye-bye, everybody. Ciao.
Bye-bye.